Okay, so hello and welcome back to your last video of your chapter 2 planning and risk assessment. Now we were discussing your previous topic, that is what is the need for audit planning process and everything. Now we will be moving on to your next topic, that is contents of overall audit strategy. Now what are the contents? What does your overall audit strategy actually contain? Okay, what are the basic contents? Now basic contents are the resources to deploy the specific audit areas, like in which area should you deploy your auditing, in which area should you conduct your auditing, whether it is experience level or external experts, etc., wherein you have to deploy your auditing. Okay, these are your specific audit areas. Next is the amount of resources you need to allocate, like how many members you need to have in order to carry out your auditing, in order to prepare your financial reports, etc. The next is when are these resources, like when are these people have to be deployed, like when are these people have to be made available in the audit procedure in order to carry out their auditing. Next is how are these resources managed, how will you manage these resources, how are you going to direct them, how are you going to supervise them, like how are you going to carry out how you're going to schedule your meetings, etc. These are all the contents of the overall audit strategy. This all information, the audit strategy consists of all the information. Okay, this is the basic information that the audit strategy, overall audit strategy contains of. Okay, now let's look into the process for establishing the overall audit strategy. Firstly, you need to see what are the resources that you need to have in order to deploy your audit strategy. Then whether the areas that you are deploying, whether in which areas you're going to deploy, whether it is having any complex matters or whether it is simplified matters, like what are the resources, which areas you need to focus more on, then how many people you need in auditing, then which resources need to be deployed, whether it is an interim audit stage, or how you are going to manage your schedule, how you're going to carry out your meeting, then how you're going to brief everything, and how you're going to maintain effectively, and how you're going to address each and every member, and how you're going to consider the opinions of each and every member. These are the basic matters which is included. Next is you have your contents of overall audit plan. Now we looked into what are the contents of audit strategy. Next is your contents of overall audit plan. Now basically the plan includes the details of what is the nature of the business, what is the time that is expected out of the auditing, how much time does it will it take to complete that particular auditing, then extent of planned risk. Okay, what is the level of risk which is accepted, then whether the material will be sufficient enough, whether the number of people who are available will be enough, whether you have to employ more staff, or etc. This will all be considered in the plan. Now next is your major difference between your interim audit and your final audit. Now the difference between interim audit and your final audit is the cost of audit. The cost of audit under your interim is basically your final audit is more economical, because here the proportion of auditors is the time spent. Okay, but in your final audit is little expensive because they have to because their entire auditing is performed only one time. It is not performed on a regular interval. Okay, next is suitability. Interim audit is suitable for medium and large scale business, whereas final audit is suitable for all types, like medium, large and small scale business. Then sampling, auditors in interim audit will have large samples, and they will be doing or carrying out the sample testing on a recurring basis. But auditors in final audit will have sampling techniques, and they will carry out only one particular time. They will examine all the accounts, books of accounts and transaction at one time basis, like only once in a year or something like that. Next is the time of audit. In interim audit, it is basically on interims, like based on the audit period, like financial year is divided into two, that is they can have auditing twice in a year, etc. But final audit is basically it is only once in 1 year, that is at the end of the year when the financial year comes to an end. Then objective is interim audit is examines the books of accounts and other records up to a particular period, but final audit will show true and false financial statements, where they will only analyze the balance sheet, and whatever has to be done at the end of the financial year, they will analyze the auditing report. Next is your internal control system. Internal control system in interim audit is basically you will see how effective the system is and what are the changes that need to be made. But in terms of final auditing, you will only see the interim system of the organization. Then you have seasonal industries reporting. It may not be interim audit is not very suitable for seasonable industries. The report is issued relatively earlier than the final audit, but final audit is very much suitable for seasonal industries, because you here the report is because the complete report is it helps you in resolving the queries and whatever the issues of the report are. Okay, Next is the extent of checking. Under your interim audit, it is lesser when compared to your final auditing. Okay, now but your final auditing is moderate, and it depends on the nature of whatever material and samples which are given to the auditor for checking. Next is regulation and regular and detection. That is, interim audit will have a regular feature of business and is conducted occasionally, so it will help you in detecting your frauds, errors, etc. But your final audit will is conducted once in every year, so so basically detection of fraud and error might be less when compared to the interim audit. Next is prevention of errors, third party interest. That is basically prevention of errors. Here is the prevention of errors. You can prevent errors, and ease of frauds can be easily detected because here it is conducted once and twice a year, etc. Okay, but here in final audit, you at times the errors might not be determined, and it could be very less frauds when compared to the interim audit. Moving on to your next topic, you have audit documentation. Now let's look into why your audit documentation is very important and what are the basic steps that need to be followed. Okay, it's firstly you need to it is very important you need to document your auditing because it is a written document which is used for your future references, right? The proper documentation, like the nature of audit, the extent of which you have used the necessary information, auditor needs to show all of this. Okay, and then next you have to show the linkage between significant risk and how these particular, like how these risks have been addressed and how you have solved this information regarding risk. Then you have to provide with judgments, like how you, on what basis have you carried out your auditing and how have you arrived at a particular decision, whether the audit has been successful based on the information or it has been unsuccessful. You have to give a judgment. Next is how the evidence has been gathered and how you have given the necessary assertions. Then after which you have your audit team that has reached its conclusions. Then compliance with relevant standards, like how you have followed your methodologies, rules and regulations, etc. in order to carry out your auditing. Then how you are going to carry out your program and what is the line of inquiry that you followed. All of this information has to be given in the audit documentation and report. Next is the form and content of audit documentation, like what is the form and what should the audit documentation contain. Okay, it should contain the size and complexity of the entire entity and what is the operations that are carried on, the nature of audit procedures, like what are to be performed, the identified material misstatements, then significance of audit evidence, nature and extent of expectations, and the audit methodology and tools which are used. All of this has to be analyzed and has to be found out and all of this has to be all of this content has to be made available in the audit documentation. That is, in the document all of these contents have to be made available. Like you need to provide all of this information in the audit document. This is what the audit document actually consists and contains of. Next is your specific consideration, like what is the risk, how great is the risk, how much material misstatement is there, whether this this material misstatement has caused any problem, or how you have performed your activities, whether you have formed any difficulty while you are evaluating. Then what is the evidence of it, whether the evidence is more significant or not. All of this will be mentioned in your specific consideration. Next is your safe custody and retention of working papers. Like safe custody and retention of working papers is nothing but like everything, whatever information is there, it will all be classified and everything will be protected. Okay, and it will be transmitted. And also whoever is responsible to have the whoever is to whomsoever you have to submit the documents, you will be submitting the documents, and all of this will be saved in the hard drive. Like one particular information about your audit report will be saved in your laptops, and and it has not been it cannot be accessible by all. It will only be used by those people who have been given the access in order to protect it from loss, damage or theft or any misuse. Then audit working papers is basically it is the paper in which everything regarding the auditing is being documented and handed over to the higher authority, to whomever the auditor has to hand over the auditing report to. Then retained audit report is basically working papers that are to be retained in the safe custody of the auditor. Like he will only he will not give access to the third parties. He will only give access to the concerned authority. Next is what is the purpose of the audit working papers. Audit working papers, the main purpose is basically this consists of whatever work has been performed, how much work has been performed, who are the staff who are involved in preparing the reports, how they have draft, then the minutes of the meeting. Okay, what are the evidences, then what are the misappropriation, the frauds. Okay, everything will be available in this particular working papers. Okay, that is entire period of working, everything will be documented and given. Okay, then next is what is the essential of good working papers. The essential of good working papers is everything should be in a very chronological order, everything should be mentioned effectively, it should contain all the information, like from the, like everything whatever you've done, what how much work you have done, whoever has assisted, everything should be properly documented, everything should be properly organized, it must contain all the accurate information. Okay, it should consist of any facts, in case of any there is any material misstatement or any fraud which has been occurred, you have to give necessary supporting documents to which how you have solved this particular fraud, misstatement, errors, and how you've taken decisions, how you've prepared the audit report and handed over. All of this has to be given. Next is your principles for handling external documents for performance audits and special examination. All of these documents, like similar documents, have to be submitted, like in case if any person is being missing, then how you are going to maintain your proxies, and how you're going to store everything in an electronic documentation, and how you are setting up your documents electronically, and you are maintaining reports like paper reports, handwritten reports for the reviewer in order to support your audit evidences. Okay, so with this we come to an end with your second chapter, that is planning app, that is planning and your risk assessment. So with this we come to an end with your second chapter, and these are the various questions which have been available for you, and we will be discussing your doubts in your online class. Okay, online session. Please go through these questions and make sure that you are following your chapter and your syllabus which is being given to you. Thank you for watching.